How is Boris Johnson earning millions? Welcome to Mark and Pete. Here's a thought.
If your political career suddenly derails and your station is feeling the strain, sell tracks of your story when all else fails and then jump on the gravy train. Yes, Boris Johnson, the former Prime Minister, has earned nearly £5 million since he left his role. Now, this is a staggering amount of money. How has he done it? Well, it seems that Mr. Johnson has been going on many a tour, presentations, speaking events, writings and advancements for some of his books and many other things. Well, many people will say, well done, Mr. Johnson, you are earning your crust. But the fact of the matter is, many people will say, hold on, he's an elected member of Parliament. Where is the integrity of his cause to serve his community? Clergyman Pete, I ask you, do you think that Boris Johnson is just on a ticket to ride?
Well, I can simply answer that by saying yes, he seems to be out to make as much money as he can. Now, looking back on it, shouldn't we say, in fact, that that was always the case? It does seem, looking on his career as Prime Minister, what he wanted to do was be Prime Minister and wasn't that interested in doing the job. And having the position of Prime Minister, or more accurately, having had the position of Prime Minister, gives you a ticket to print money. I mean, Boris Johnson, what has he made, about 5 million this year on top of his salary of £84,000 a year, which he receives as a member of Parliament. Now, that's a lot of money, and I think all of it was made after he left.
Correct. That's the whole point.
After he left as Prime Minister.
Yes.
So no wonder he didn't seem particularly upset when he resigned. He seemed quite jaunty about it.
Well, yes.
Yeah, so what is the motivation behind people who are elevated to these high positions of the country? Is it purely selfish? And it does seem to be. That's what it looks like.
Well,
to anyone looking at this, it seems that he's just cashing in, and from how he handled himself as Prime Minister, that he always intended to do it.
Well, many people have been scratching their heads wondering why he did not make the political comeback that we thought that he was going to. So, as we all know, he left in ignominy, and Liz Truss took over. When Liz Truss left, it left a gap. You may say there was a gap. It was Liz Truss. But nevertheless, the fact of the matter is that he decided not to run against Rishi Sunak. Well, when you get a £510,000 advance for his political memoirs, along with 1.8 million registered since leaving office for 9 speeches delivered in the US, India, Portugal, the UK, and Singapore. And I'm sure there are many others on the horizon.
Yes.
The fact of the matter is, it all tots up to nearly £5 million. Now, okay, that's where he is today. So you wonder, well, maybe actually coming back to be Prime Minister was not as lucrative. Now, of course, the cynical will say, well, what would you do in his situation? Well, the fact of the matter is he's not the only one, is he? Because, of course, we've seen other people do this. We've seen Matt Hancock, for example, suspended as he was. The fact is he went off to join I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And he earned hundreds of thousands of pounds. Should he have done that? Many people said no. So is it really that we deserve the politicians that we get, Clergyman Pete? Or what other mechanism can we put in place to stop this happening? Because it seems that he's not the only one. I'm going to reference somebody else, another hero of the past, Tony Blair. Now, when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, accepting that he had a longer tenure, of course, in politics, particularly as a Prime Minister, but when he left, my goodness, did he earn a lot of money on the public circuit, and also in the private sectors, being an advisor to many others. He earned millions of pounds. And this, you could say, is that he served his public, but still at the same time, there was a good cash payout at the end. So what do you think? I mean, is this just an open market? It's a free economy, and that's something we just have to accept? And that's the precedent. Well, that's the way it all works. Or maybe that we need to reevaluate the type of person that we want to run our nation. I ask you, Commissioner Pete, what is your take on this?
Well, there is a mechanism to recall MPs now. If you get a petition that's of signatures, and I think we should use it more. I think when people show lack of integrity, they need to be removed from public office, and it's a relatively new, but there is a mechanism to do it. And then when it comes to voting in new people, we have an election, a general election, we go and vote for the same jokers as we did before. Now, what should happen is no one votes, because we just don't trust any of them. I mean, we get them because we get these people in place because we vote for them. And in the end, it's a reflection of who we are that we get these grasping people who have no intellectual weight or any sort of moral compass, it seems, actually running the place. There are MPs who seem to have a moral compass, but they seem to me to be few and far between. And so what's happening is such a large scale, I can't say it's just them. I think it's us as the people who are voting for them in Britain. And there needs to be a big change. Nigel Farage, who's leader of two political parties, he ran one of his parties in a general election, got 4 million votes and one seat in Parliament because of the way that it was run. And he was saying, well, you're not going to get change because people are just so set in their ways. They vote for these people who don't have their best interests at heart. And he then went on to say what he thought would happen. Then he corrected himself and he said, no, this is what should happen. He doesn't actually have faith that people are going to bring it about. So I'm afraid it is true that we have people like Boris Johnson who do seem to be just on the make. And unless we change our ways, it'll just keep happening.
Well, that's exactly, and I can see that that's the case. And now here's the other thing, because many people have said in recent analysis of politics in the last 10 years that not enough people with industry experience or other areas of society have come into politics. If you think of bygone days in the 20th century, there were people from the clergy, business, there were people from the military, there were people from many other different areas of life who decided to actually commit themselves to politics, and that was their vocation. They didn't sell out, effectively. Now, you could also argue that whilst politics is a very turbulent life, and you have to accept from their perspective, as has always been the case, that it's not an easy job. You're having to serve your local constituency, and that's fair enough. I mean, obviously, that's where it should be. We always say that it needs to be about localism, and that's what we want. Matt Hancock. So the fact of the matter is if you don't serve your community, then why on earth would we see any of these individuals as being credible selling out? Now, here's the thing. I think that it does need a complete overhaul of legislation to stop the people doing this. But here's the thing as well. I'm very happy for MPs and indeed even the Prime Minister to be paid more, because I think it's reasonable to say that whilst on average earnings that MPs as well as the Prime Minister today earn more than most, it's still a relatively small amount than in the private sector. Some of the individuals in business can earn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and even 10 times as much. And yet there isn't the incentive to come into politics and stay in the role. And so to me, I think that we've talked about this before. The system is broken. It doesn't work. And we've seen, as you say, that we tend to attract a certain type of individual. But maybe then if we could see a way forward, that there's a way of actually incentivizing people from industry as well as other areas of society. I mean, do you think that that is one way going forward? And more of an incentive is effectively a longer term commitment.
Yes, I do think that you need a better career structure than do your job, and then as soon as you get out, you'll earn millions, because that is just a recipe for corruption, isn't it? And not paying people enough while they're working is a recipe for corruption while you're on the job, Matt Hancock. And so what you have is structural changes we could make. You're right, that could improve matters. And I think that something else that we could do, we could make it easier, more obvious how to recall your MPs. And another thing you could do is have the selection of MPs being an open primary. That is to say, having people, rather than having people just in the party selecting a candidate who you then vote for, you actually have the electorate voting for the candidate.
Yeah.
And that would mean they were exposed to scrutiny that they're not so much. It can get out of hand in the United States. Being exposed to scrutiny means people hounding you and interviewing your close relatives, trying to make them out to be idiots and charlatans and that sort of thing. So it can go too far, but I think a step in that direction, having some sort of open primary, would help.
Well, here's the other thing as well. I'm very much in favour for MPs doing other activities in the way that if they, say, for example, let's say if they commit time, agreed time, to a worthy cause like a charity. So anything that they earn outside of being an MP goes to a worthy cause, meaning all of it, not just some of it, Matt Hancock. And that would be certainly something that I could see then playing to a cause and playing to something positively political, in the sense that it supports the cause of the nation or the community. Matt Hancock.
Yes. Matt Hancock, Boris Johnson, sold out and sold their souls for filthy lucre. And in some point in the future, they will reap their just rewards. Sadly, at the moment, they're just reaping lots and lots of spondulics, lots of cash. And so we have to watch out for the way that they're treated and put into place some changes. That's what we're thinking about this on Mark and Pete, this subject on Mark and Pete. Let us know what you think. You just have to go to markandpete.com and leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe, then you can leave a comment on this and every episode. But I guess that's it. Any final comments, Mark?
Well, no, I certainly would say it's I'm open to any kind of incentive, and we're waiting for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I could see Clergyman Pete eating some very strange substances in the jungle.
I get paid far too much doing this job. But yes, catch you next time, everyone. Bye for now.